Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I would like to present my second video about the Afghanistan and its past, present, and future. As far as the past is concerned, this is something which has already been completed and everybody knows it. What the past of Afghanistan was, and the present is something which is also being reported by different agencies. And the future is that uncertain part of a person's life or in the life of nations about which always people have developed curiosities. Now, entire companies and businesses are being run just in the name of predicting the future. Why? Because future is always being very curiously uh, seen, and people want to know how their life ahead will be. So, as far as the future of Afghanistan is concerned, just like in our earlier studies, when there used to be a model being put in the middle of the room, and we students would gather in a circular shape and try to make a drawing of the model from our own angle. So, similarly, when an event takes place, each and everybody has his own viewpoint how to interpret the event and its outcome. Recently, United States and the Taliban have signed a deal about the American withdrawal and future shape of Afghanistan in Doha, Qatar. In that agreement, they have agreed upon a roadmap for Afghanistan in its near future. In just a few words, that roadmap predicts that America would start withdrawing its forces from Afghanistan. There will be an inter-Afghan dialogue for the future shape of the government. Later on, there will be a free and fair election held under the supervision of United Nations and different other bodies, including United States of America. And Taliban will be allowed to participate in that free and fair election. And afterwards, uh, the incoming government will run the country independently. Now, This has been a very ideal roadmap, but ideal situation is always not equal to the real world situation. The real world situation presents certain threats to this agreement and its benefits and fruits in the near and further future. In my first lecture, I have outlined one issue which was very important, and in just a bird's eye view, I would summarize that lecture in two or three lines. The Doha Agreement has been signed and agreed upon by two entities, Taliban and America. Neither of these two have even a singular free and fair vote casted by the genuine Afghan people, wherein they may have been authorized to do so. The United States came into power in Afghanistan by force of gun, and similarly, previously in 1996, Taliban also had captured Kabul and almost 80% of Afghanistan by force of bullet, not ballot. So, this is the major drawback and shortcoming of this agreement, that both the signing parties have no genuine representation from the Afghan people. On the other hand, there was a third entity, the Afghan government, led by Ashraf Ghani and his followers. They have held an election. In fact, after the fall of Taliban, there have been four elections, presidential elections. Two times Hamid Karzai had won, and two times Ashraf Ghani. If you cast doubt about the fairness of these elections, let's say you don't accept the 100% result, you may accept 75%, 60%, 50%, or even less. Let's say you are going to say that 45% of the election process was 100% fair, it was free from bias. So, at least 45% of the genuine Afghan voters have thrown their vote, their backing, and their willingness behind Ashraf Ghani. Now, Ashraf Ghani has the trust of and the confidence of nearly 45% of the Afghanis voters. If it comes to 40% or even 35%, let's say 35% of genuine Afghani voters are backing Ashraf Ghani. Now, can you show me even a singular vote which have authorized Taliban to decide the future of Afghanistan, or any singular vote which has authorized the United States to sign a deal for the future of Afghanistan? Both the signatories to this agreement had ruled Afghanistan with gun, not with ballot. And this is the major drawback of this agreement, and it casts doubt over the future success of this agreement. It will also affect badly and affect seriously badly the desired results of this agreement, because the genuine Afghan representatives have been kept outside of this agreement. You are going to let them join the inter-Afghan dialogue, but once you are actually making them, in fact, bowing down before the Taliban, because you are accepting Taliban a power, is a power which represents the Afghan general voters, which in reality is not the case. Now, afterwards, if it comes to the inter-Afghan dialogue, past has always lessons to teach you about different events. We have seen in our past nearly 40 years history that Afghanis will unite only whenever they see a common threat. If the threat is eliminated from their minds, they will not be united. They will scatter and they will always fight each other. Just like a human body, I mean the upper area of the human body, where the rib cage holds the vital organs in their exact shape and place. The Afghan society and the Afghan, let's say, nation needs a strong force to keep each and every part of this nation and this society in its place and let it function properly. If they are let alone, they will always fight each other. And why? There is a huge gap, in fact, thousands and millions of gaps between different sectors and sections of Afghan society. The particular characteristics of Afghanistan amongst different nations of the world and countries is that it is a multi religious, multi linguistic, multi ethnic, multicultural society, and there are different small communities who always struggling for their sometimes rightful share, sometimes even more than their rightful share in the power. And another catastrophic characteristic of this country is its geographical location in the map of the world, where in its own nature it has been a landlocked country, in which case it always depends on others for some vital supplies and other connections with the rest of the world. On the other hand, its own location being in the middle of a different, very important geopolitical entities, it always has been used as a ground for proxy wars by different warring factions in the region against each other. And almost everybody is trying to level the score again using Afghanistan as a playground for the proxy war. These foreign interferences have always caused disrupt and disturbances in the Afghan society. The famous saying that divide and rule has always been used as a rule of thumb by different powers, and the Afghan society has been divided in several ways. In time before 1979, when Saudi Arabia and Shah of Iran were both the active partners of United States in maintaining the United States international affairs policy in this region. The trouble between Shia and Sunni was not as harsh as nowadays. When Shah was toppled by religious mullahs of Iran and Saudi Arabia, along with its other brethren countries in the region, felt a threat of popular rule in their own countries. They tried to present the Iranian Mullahism as a threat to Islam. And that was the time when Wahhabism came out with its full brutal force. And this was also the year when Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Later on, the Saudi military and religious establishment under the supervision of its royal administration set up different madrasas and teaching institutions in Pakistan where they taught Wahhabism as a primary syllabus to the Afghan refugees. Most particularly, the Pashtun belt were made Wahhabi. In Wahhabism, they always set a narrow path for the Islam, and whoever deviates from that narrow path, they stamp that person as non-Muslim, and they have always tried to eliminate the non-Muslims by force, not by conversion and by different other means. The Wahhabi doctrine states that the life, wealth, and honor of non-Muslim, particularly those non-Muslims who call themselves Muslims, is legal for a Wahhabi. It is the Wahhabi doctrine, written or unwritten, in many shapes and in many practical ways. This has been adopted. So, we have seen this being practically done during the rule of Taliban in Afghanistan, and that period from 1996 to 2001, those about 5 years were those 5 years were the when Taliban were in power in Kabul. They tried to suppress the non-Wahhabi sections in Afghanistan. Hazaras were suppressed, Shias were suppressed, others were too, and Uzbek, Tajik, all those people are allergic to the Taliban. Somehow, I don't find any way of those other sections of Afghan society going along with the Taliban, following same goals for the peaceful future of Afghanistan. It seems to be very unfunctional, unrational, and a bit unpracticable future settlement. These things may be desirable, may be desired by some, but keeping in view the present and the not so distant past events, these things may not be part of the real world scenario. I hope they will, but in the reality, it is impossible. Secondly, the foreign interferences in Afghanistan will always be there to see a very peaceful and, in other words, an unharmed Afghanistan, harmless Afghanistan. Harmless in that way that it will not let its soil to be used for against anybody. This has just been said to, if you say, this has been just said for the galleries, for the clapping from the galleries. In other words, or in real sense, this is impossible that the Afghan soil will be will not be used by one party against another. We have seen this being done from very early timings. When the British were invading Afghanistan, they tried to use that as a launching pad against Russian empires, czars, etc. Later on, when the Russians came, they tried to use Afghanistan. Even I must say, even before the 79 invasion, the Russians were using Afghanistan as a launching pad against Western, most particularly against Pakistan. And the Pakistanis were being part of the American coalition using Afghanistan as a place against Russians. And all these different factions, they always try to find their own friends in the exact spot. Pakistanis try to find their own friends, Indians try to find their friends, and Russians and Americans try to find their friends. And in this way, the fragile Afghan society was even more divided. Later on, another division came in the shape of Iran and Saudi friends being on the ground in Afghanistan, fighting each other in shape of different fractions of Mujahideen. First, they were united against Russia. Later on, when the Russians came out, they fought each other, and those were in fact more devastating and, let's say, gloomy days than even the Russian invasion itself was. Hikmatyar being part of the being taught by the Wahhabi school of thought, and his opponent Ahmad Shah Massoud was a Tajik who was following the Shia school of thought. So later Taliban came. They also fought Dostum and Ahmad Shah Massoud and Rabbani. And when Mazar-e Sharif was captured by Taliban, in fact it was twice, when it was captured for a second time, thousands of Shia young were killed by Taliban. So all these events have actually divided the Afghan society into different fractions, and you cannot let them forget their future. Sorry, their past. Their past has been so bloody, so much bloody, that it is impossible for them to forget it. They will remember their past, and if they rem- have any relationship with their past, it is impossible for this agreement to bring out the desired effects in the future. So, in this lecture, I have summarized the cultural division of Afghanistan, and I will summarize my words in one line that despite all those gloomy events, I hope best for Afghanistan and my brothers there. They have suffered a lot. We are seeing Afghanis being subjugated to the worst kind of living in the refugee camps in Pakistan, in Iran, and in other countries. They don't deserve this kind of life. They deserve an honorable, peaceful atmosphere inside their own boundaries where they will thrive, they will educate their children, and they will serve their own nation and build their future. They are very intelligent people. Afghanis are one of the most intelligent and hardworking people. The culture of entrepreneurship has been stemmed from the Afghani society. Almost each and every one amongst them tries to make his own business a success story. So, hats off to the hardworking Afghani people and best of luck for them. Allah Hafiz.